Great Reset. Chapter 1, The New Theology, 2035. The holographic stained glass flickered with a digital luminescence that no sun, stationary or moving, could replicate. Inside the Cathedral of Unified Progress in downtown Seattle, the air was conditioned to a crisp, sterile purity. It smelled of ozone and expensive perfume, masking the scent of a decaying society. Mateo sat in the back pew, his fingers gripping the worn leather of a physical Bible, a relic that drew suspicious glances from the ushers patrolling the aisles with tablets in hand. The congregation, a sea of thousands, sat entranced. They did not look at the altar, but at the massive screen suspended above it, where the image of Bishop Alistair Thorne was projected in 8K resolution. For too long, Thorne's voice boomed, smoothed by audio engineering to hit the perfect frequencies of persuasion. We have looked for God in the antiquated myths of shepherds and fishermen. We looked for a bearded man in the clouds. But science, blessed, divine science, has revealed the truth. God is not a being, but a process. God is the upward spiral of evolution. And we... He paused for dramatic effect, spreading his hands, which were adorned with haptic feedback rings. We are the architects of the next stage. Mateo felt a sickness rise in his gut. This was the new theology that had swept the earth like a spiritual contagion over the last 2 years. It was the fulfillment of 2 Timothy 4:3-4, the itching ears of the masses, desperate for a gospel that required no repentance, only upgrade. The Alset Corporation, Thorne continued, gesturing to a logo that appeared floating in the augmented reality field visible to those wearing Neuralink glasses, has gifted us the tools to merge with the divine. Why wait for a resurrection when we can upload? Why fear death when biology is merely software waiting to be patched? The crowd murmured their assent. Amen to the code, someone whispered near Mateo. Mateo opened his Bible to Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. The knowledge was gone. In the schools, the history of the Creator had been erased, replaced by the chaotic chants of the Big Bang and the spinning ball Earth theory. They taught that the world was an insignificant speck in a vacuum, spinning aimlessly, rather than the immovable, enclosed plane set on pillars by a loving designer and creator. By making the world an accident, they had made the people feel like accidents, desperate for man-made purpose. He looked up at the dome of the cathedral. It was designed to mimic the night sky, but it was a lie. Just as the screens were a lie, just as the globe in the lobby was a lie. The true firmament, the solid dome that enclosed them all, was the one thing the elite feared. It was the physical proof of God that they could not explain away with Darwinism, so they suppressed it. Mateo stood up. He couldn't take it anymore. Sit down, an usher hissed, stepping into the aisle. The usher was wearing the insignia of the Pax Vatican, the so-called Global Ecumenical Council that now dictated church policy for all denominations. This isn't a church, Mateo said, loud enough for the back rows to hear. It's a morgue. He pushed past the usher and burst out into the gray afternoon. The city was a sprawling labyrinth of glass and steel, heavily monitored by drones. The skyline was dominated by the spire of the Alset Corporation, a needle threatening to pierce the low-hanging clouds. Mateo's phone buzzed. It was a text from Hiroki, an old contact from his days in software engineering before he had woken up to the deception. They are moving the timeline up. The red protocol is active. Meet me at the safe house. Do not go home. Mateo looked at the passers-by. They walked with their heads down, eyes glued to screens, absorbing the fear-mongering of the news cycle. There were rumors of a great reset. The economy was failing. The weather was being manipulated to create climate crises, and the solution offered was always the same. More control, more centralization, more reliance on the beast system. He threw his phone into a trash can. If Hiroki was right, the time for being a spectator was over. The 42 months of the beast's political authority were on the prophetic radar. It was time to leave his old life behind. Chapter 2. The Synagogue of Satan. Deep beneath the Vatican, in a chamber lined with black marble that absorbed the light of the flickering torches, Cardinal Valerius stood before a massive circular table. He was not wearing his public vestments, the white and gold that dazzled the cameras. Here, he wore crimson, the color of blood and death. Around the table sat 12 men and women, the unseen architects of the world's misery. They were not just politicians or bankers. They were the high priests of the secret religion that had infiltrated the papacy centuries ago. They served the Prince of the Air, the adversary. "The resistance is growing," Valerius said, his voice echoing in the chamber. He pointed to a holographic map of the world, projected as a flat plane, the true map that they used for navigation and military operations while selling the globe model to the masses. Red dots pulsed in rural areas, away from the 15-mile cities. The fundamentalists, the literalists, those who refuse the integration. "They are a nuisance," a woman with sharp features and cold eyes replied. She was the CEO of the world's largest pharmaceutical conglomerate. "We have severed their bank accounts. We have mocked them in the media. We have branded them enemies of science and terrorists of ignorance. Yet they persist. They persist because they have the spirit." Valerius spat the word out like a curse. "You cannot starve out those who are fed by bread you cannot see. We need a final solution before the enforcement phase. We cannot implement the mark, the total loyalty pledge to the system, while these dissenters are whispering truth into the ears of our cattle." A synthesized voice filled the room. It came from a black monolith standing in the center of the table. This was the interface for the false prophet, a hyper-advanced artificial intelligence that the Vatican had consecrated to speak on behalf of the spiritual realm. The world believed the Pope was the leader, but the Pope took his marching orders from this entity, which processed worldwide data to maximize deception. "Analysis," the AI droned. "The obstruction is biological and spiritual. The dissenters serve as a restrainer. Their prayers create interference in the frequency. To usher in the presence of the Master, the frequency must be pure. The interference must be removed." Valerius nodded. "We need a cull, a massive one. The infrastructure cannot support the transition to the technocracy with 8 billion people, especially when 1 billion of them are nominal Christians who might wake up if we push too hard. We need to reduce the numbers, and we need to break the will of the survivors. The schools have done their job," the pharmaceutical CEO said. "Atheism is the default setting for 90% of the youth. They believe they are animals, so they will be happy to be treated like animals. But the older generation and the stubborn remnant—" "The viral agent is ready?" Valerius asked. "Project Abaddon," she confirmed. "It attacks the frontal lobe. It removes inhibition. It stimulates the reptilian brain. Aggression, paranoia, animalistic violence. It is messy." "Messy is good," Valerius smiled, a thin, cruel expression. "Messy creates fear. Fear creates a demand for safety, and we will sell them safety at the cost of their souls." "And the antidote?" asked a general sitting in the shadows. "We have it," the CEO said. "For us, for the public, we have something else. A solution that solves the population problem permanently." Valerius looked at the map. He traced his finger over the layout of the continents, grouped around the center point of the North Pole, surrounded by the ice wall of Antarctica. "The time is short. The Master grows impatient. He wants his kingdom. We will give him a kingdom of silence." "Release it," Valerius commanded. "Let the pestilence walk in darkness." Chapter 3. The Rage. Kemi adjusted her backpack, checking the straps for the third time. The neon signs of Lagos flickered erratically. The power grid had been unstable for weeks, a manufactured crisis to drive people toward the smart grid solutions offered by the coalition. She stood in the shadow of an abandoned warehouse, waiting for the transport. As a nurse in one of the city's largest hospitals, she had seen the memos before they were shredded. She had seen the new classification codes for religious dissidents and non-compliant biologicals. "Kemi," a voice whispered. She turned to see Liam, a tall man with tired eyes. He was a former history professor who had been fired for teaching pre-1900 history without the progressive filter. "Is everyone here?" Kemi asked. "7 of us. The others, they were afraid. They went back to their apartments. They think if they just keep their heads down, the church will protect them." Kemi shook her head. "The church turned in the roster of high-risk believers to the police yesterday. My cousin works in administration. They sold us out, Liam. They said we were holding back the evolution of the faith." "2 Thessalonians," Liam muttered. "The falling away comes first." A battered van rolled up to the curb, its headlights off. The driver was a mechanic named Javi, who had figured out how to disable the vehicle's GPS tracker and remote kill switch. They piled in. The interior smelled of old oil and fear. "Where are we going?" a young girl asked, clutching a doll. "The wilderness," Javi said, grinding the gears as they pulled away. "Away from the 5G towers, away from the smart cameras. There's a community forming in the foothills, people who know the truth." As they drove through the outskirts of the city, Kemi looked out the window. The billboards were flashing breaking news. URGENT, new viral outbreak detected. Symptoms include extreme aggression. Curfew in effect immediately. Report any suspicious behavior. "It's starting," Kemi whispered. "They're calling it the Rage," Liam said, looking at his analog radio scanner. "Reports coming in from London, New York, Tokyo. People attacking each other in the streets, biting, screaming. It's demonic possession masquerading as biology. It's the pharmakia," Kemi said, tears stinging her eyes. "Revelation 18:23. By their sorcery, all nations were deceived. They've been prepping the bodies of the people for years with chemicals, water additives, frequencies. Now they just pulled the trigger." The van hit a pothole, jarring them. Javi looked in the rearview mirror. "Police drone, 2 miles back. Hang on." He veered off the main road onto a dirt track that cut through the dense brush. This was the separation. The wheat was being separated from the tares, not by a rapture, but by the pressure of persecution. The cities were becoming traps of steel and concrete, prisons for those who loved the world more than the truth. "Why do they hate us so much?" the young girl asked. "We just want to pray." "Because," Liam said softly, "our existence proves they are lying. If we are right, then the earth isn't a random ball. If we are right, they aren't gods. If we are right, judgment is coming, and they would rather kill us than face the judge." They drove into the darkness, leaving the artificial lights of the beast system behind, heading toward the only safety left, reliance on God in the face of impossible odds. Chapter 4. The Poisoned Chalice. 3 weeks later, the world was a horror show. The virus had moved faster than any biological agent in history, primarily because it had been seeded simultaneously in every major transport hub by operatives. The infected were terrifying. They didn't just kill, they destroyed. They tore at infrastructure, at themselves, at anyone nearby. It was a manifestation of pure, unrestrained hatred. The demonic realm had been given permission to manifest through the altered biology of the victims. In the bunker of the World Health Authority in Geneva, Dr. Aris Thorne, brother to the bishop, stood before the cameras. He wore a white coat that looked pristine against the backdrop of chaotic footage playing on the screens behind him. "Citizens of the world," Eris began, his face a mask of practiced concern. "The nightmare is ending. The Alset Corporation, working in conjunction with the Vatican Council on Science, has developed the savior strain." He held up a vial of glowing blue liquid. "This is not just a vaccine, it is a biological shield. It enhances your immune system, calms the amygdala, and integrates with the new Health Pass chips. It is 100% effective against the rage virus. But you must take it now. Distribution centers are open." In the mountains of Colorado, Mateo watched the broadcast on a battery-powered portable TV. He was in a cave system that had been fortified by a group of preppers and believers. There were about 50 of them now. "Don't take it," Hiroki warned the group. He was holding a stack of printed papers, leaked documents from a contact who had died getting them out. "Look at the trial data. They suppressed it." Mateo took the papers. "What does it do?" "It works," Hiroki said grimly. "That's the trap. You take it, and the fear goes away. The aggression stops. You feel euphoric, better than you've ever felt. It floods the body with dopamine and synthetic endorphins." "And then?" Mateo asked. "Around 2 weeks," Hiroki pointed to a graph. "Cytokine storm, massive cardiac arrest. The body simply shuts down. No pain, no warning. You just drop." "They're culling the herd," Mateo realized. "They used the virus to scare the sheep into the slaughterhouse." "It's worse," Kemi said. She had joined their group after a harrowing journey from the coast. "The formulation, it contains heavy metals and nanotech. It changes the DNA resonance. It severs the connection to the spiritual. I've seen people who took early doses. Their eyes, they go dead before their bodies do. It's like the soul leaves the room." Back in the cities, the lines for the vaccine stretched for miles. Panic had overridden logic. People were watching their neighbors turning into monsters, and they would do anything for safety. The churches were the biggest vaccination centers. Pastors stood at pulpits, rolling up their sleeves, telling their flocks that taking the shot was an act of Christian love, that Jesus would have trusted the science. "Take the shot, save your neighbor," was the chant. Those who refused were hunted, not by the police, but by their own terrified communities. In a small apartment in London, a young woman named Maria hid in her closet. Her parents were pounding on the door. "Open up!" her father screamed. "We aren't going to let you die! We aren't going to let you infect us!" "I can't, Dad," she wept, clutching her Bible. "It's sorcery. It's wrong. I can feel it." "You and your cult!" her mother shrieked. "The bishop said it's a gift from God! Open the door!" They broke the door down. They dragged her out. This was the betrayal Jesus spoke of. Parents against children, brother against brother. The love of many had waxed cold, replaced by the cold logic of survival. But Maria didn't scream. She prayed. She knew that what they were offering was not life, but a second death. Chapter 5. The Wilderness. The high desert of Chile, the caves of the Ural Mountains, the deep forests of Canada, the underground bunkers of New Zealand. Across the plain of the earth, the faithful were digging in. They were not just hiding, they were enduring. Those who would survive would make up the 144,000, a number symbolic of the complete, redeemed Israel of God, spiritual warriors from every nation, tribe, kindred, and tongue, who will fulfill God's purpose in humanity, to vindicate his perfect and loving character. Mateo's group had established a rhythm. They had water from a mountain spring, food from stockpiles and hunting, and something more important, truth. At night, without the light pollution of the cities, they could see the stars as they truly were. Not distant burning suns light years away, but luminaries moving in the firmament, the the clockwork of the Creator. "It's beautiful," whispered a young boy named Stephen, looking up through a gap in the camouflage netting. "They look close enough to touch." "They are closer than the world tells you," Mateo said, stirring the fire. "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. That's why they hate the sky, Stephen. That's why they spray it with chemtrails and fill it with satellites and debris. They want to hide the roof so you forget you're in a house built by a father." Hiroki sat by the radio equipment. He was using shortwave frequencies to communicate with other cells of believers. The news was grim but consistent. "The die-off has begun," Hiroki reported. 2 weeks exactly since the mass rollout. People are dropping in the streets, driving cars, walking dogs, sitting in cafes. They just collapse. "Is the media covering it?" Kemi asked. "No. The media has gone silent on the elites. No sightings of the president, no sightings of the Pope, the CEOs of Alset, the banks. They vanished." "They're in the rocks," Mateo said, quoting Revelation 6. "Hiding in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. They know what they've done. They know the chaos that's coming when the bodies start piling up and the survivors realize they've been poisoned." "The AI is still broadcasting," Hiroki noted. "The Veritas system. It's generating deepfakes of the leaders to keep the public calm, telling them the deaths are a secondary variant of the virus and to stay indoors. But the illusion is breaking. They want a reset," Mateo said. "They want the population down to 500 million. That was always the number on the Georgia Guidestones. They think they can burn the field and replant it with their transhuman slaves." The ground beneath them trembled slightly. Not an earthquake, but a deep, resonant vibration. "What was that?" Stephen asked, frightened. "They are testing weapons," Liam said. "Seismic weapons. Or maybe they are trying to breach the firmament again. They've been firing nukes at the glass ceiling since the 1950s, Operation Fishbowl, trying to break out of God's terrarium." Mateo stood up and looked out over the valley. The wind was picking up, carrying a metallic taste. "They aren't trying to break out anymore," Mateo said heavily. "They are trying to bring the roof down on everyone left outside their bunkers." Chapter 6. The Great Silence. The cities were tombs. The smell was unbearable. The sanitation systems had failed weeks ago. The savior strain had done its work with terrifying efficiency. Millions lay dead where they had fallen. The survivors, those who had been immune or those who had hesitated, wandered the streets in a daze, scavenging for food. But there was no leadership. The police stations were empty. The hospitals were silent. The screens in Times Square still played looped advertisements for products no one could buy, interspersed with calming messages from the AI prophet. "Remain calm. Trust the plan. The transition is difficult but necessary. Evolution requires sacrifice." In the Vatican, the halls were empty of people but full of buzzing drones. The false prophet AI sat on the table in the black chamber, humming. It was running simulations for the next phase, the Phoenix event. The elites were safe. Deep in the underground cities connected by high-speed maglev trains, DUMBS, they sipped wine and watched the surface feeds. They had the real antidote. They had the hydroponic gardens. They had the genetic stock for the new humanity they planned to breed. A humanity without the God gene, fully interfaceable with the AI. Cardinal Valerius sat in his private quarters in the bunker city Genesis 2, beneath the Swiss Alps. He watched a feed of Rome. The Vatican was burning. Looters had finally breached the walls. "Let it burn," he whispered. "The old religion is dead. From the ashes we will build the temple of man." He turned to the other screen, which showed the location of the nuclear silos. They were automated now. No human hand needed to turn the key. The AI had control. "Targeting confirmation," the computer voice stated. Major population centers, agricultural zones, dissident strongholds. Valerius hesitated for a fraction of a second. This was the destruction of the world as it had been known for thousands of years. But he justified it, as he always did. It was for order. It was to save the planet from the parasite of humanity. "Execute," he said. On the surface, the silence was heavy. The birds had stopped singing, sensing the change in the electromagnetic field. In the wilderness, the believers felt it too. It was a pressure in the spirit, a heaviness that made it hard to breathe. "It's time," Mateo said to his group. "Gather everyone. We need to pray." "Is it the end?" Stephen asked. "It's the beginning of the end," Mateo corrected. "It's the birth pangs. The world is about to go into labor." They gathered in the center of the cave. Kemi, Liam, Hiroki, Javi, and the others. They held hands. They didn't pray for safety. They didn't pray to be beamed up before the trouble started in the version of the rapture churches taught to offer a false sense of security and to give people a non-existent second chance at salvation. They prayed for strength to endure. They prayed for the souls of those dying in the cities. "Lord," Mateo prayed, his voice steady, "we know the enemy has come to steal, kill, and destroy, but we know that you have overcome the world. If we live to you. If we die to you. Let us be light in this darkness." Chapter 7. The Fire and the 10 Kingdoms. The sky turned white. It wasn't the sun. It was 1,000 artificial suns blooming across the horizon. The nuclear fire, the ultimate weapon of the fallen ones, unleashed upon the earth. The sound came later, a roar that shook the foundations of the mountains. From their vantage point high in the safety of the natural rock formations, Mateo and the others watched the mushroom clouds rising in the distance. They were far enough away from the blast zones to survive the initial impact, but they knew the fallout would come. The winds would carry the ash. The earth shook violently. This was the shaking spoken of in the prophets. The firmament itself seemed to vibrate with the assault. In the underground bunkers, the elites cheered. They popped champagne. They believed they had won. They believed that when the radiation settled in under 10 years, they would emerge as gods to rule over a clean slate. And they did. While the surface burned, the underground cities hummed with the efficiency of the grave. The elites did not idle in their concrete wombs. They built. They developed a fleet of AGI-controlled technology and drones, sleek black machines powered by cold fusion and hatred. This technology was not for the betterment of mankind, but for the preservation of the few. It was designed to survey, to control, and to hunt. In the deep silence of the bunkers, the new hierarchy solidified. At the top was the dragon, Lucifer, the unseen architect, worshipped in the deepest chambers where the air was thick with incense and malice. Below him sat the beast, the reconstructed papacy, stripped of its Christian facade, now openly acting as the political arm of the underworld. And speaking for them both was the false prophet, the AI humaniad deceiver that had coordinated the destruction, now evolved into a ubiquitous bio-digital presence, the voice of reason that would guide the survivors. 10 years passed in the darkness. Then the doors opened. The world that emerged was not the one that had died. It was divided into 10 major regions, 10 kingdoms of iron and clay. The servant class, those allowed to survive in the bunkers to scrub the floors and maintain the reactors, were pushed out first to rebuild under the iron thumb of AI-controlled overlords. Life in the 10 zones was a miracle of efficiency. Everyone had a digital ID linked to their biometrics. No cash, no cards, just a scan of the hand or forehead. It was convenient. It was safe. It was a prison. Things were fine for a while. The sky cleared, though it was a strange, muted color now. The cities rose again, gleaming and soulless. But then, The whispers began. Paper notes found tucked into old science books. Analog radio broadcasts breaking through the digital static. Messengers, ragged and wild-eyed, appearing at the edges of the zones before disappearing back into the radioactive Badlands. "You are living in the 42 months," the messages read. "The clock started when the doors opened. Revelation 11 and 13 are here. The 10 kingdoms of Revelation 17 are established. Wake up." In the sanitized apartments of Zone 3, formerly Europe, a man named John found one of these tracts. He read about the beast. He read about the deception. He looked at the screen on his wall, where the false prophet was preaching unity, and for the first time, he saw the strings. People began to question. In the cafeterias and the transit hubs, eyes met with a new understanding. Some gathered their families and fled into the night, heading for the mountains where the radiation count was supposedly lethal. But the system was not blind. The Alset Technology, the hunter-killer drones, swept the streets. Dissenters were rounded up. They didn't go to trial, they simply vanished, their digital IDs erased from the blockchain, effectively deleting their existence. There was no tolerance for dissension in the new world. After almost 3.5 years of this iron rule, the beast decided the obstruction had to end. The friction caused by the believers was slowing down the final integration. The announcement came on every screen, every device, every speaker in the 10 zones. "Citizens," the smooth voice of the AI intoned, "to ensure the stability of the human project, we must achieve total synchronization. You have 2 months. 2 months to present yourselves at your local Unity Center. You will pledge your allegiance to the system and its architect, Lucifer the Lightbringer. You will receive the permanent mark of citizenship." The threat was absolute. Refuse and be cut off. No food, no water, no shelter, no medical care. Your bank account would be zeroed out. Your door locks would not open. You would be cast out into the outer darkness with no support from the system. The countdown began. Panic gripped the cities. People lined up by the millions. They bowed to the censors. They took the mark on their right hands or their foreheads, relieved to secure their next meal, unaware they were selling their eternal souls for a bowl of synthetic stew. They didn't know there was a God who could rain manna from heaven. They didn't know that obedience to the Creator was the only true survival. But others woke up. The ultimatum was the final shake. "We have to go," John told his wife. "But the kids," she wept. "They'll starve." "If we stay, they die forever," he said. "If we leave, we trust him." Just before the 2 months expired, chaos erupted. The Valley of Indecision was full of wailing. Families were torn apart, fathers dragging sons to the Unity Centers, mothers smuggling daughters out through the sewer tunnels. Then, the clock hit 0. The mark of the beast of Bible prophecy was enforced. In the cities, the grid turned red for the non-compliant. Access denied. Drones descended, their sensors hunting for the thermal signatures of the unmarked. The persecution was swift and brutal. The guillotines, long thought to be museum pieces, were brought out of storage, efficient and public. But in the wilderness, under the true dome of the firmament, the remnant watched. They were hungry, but they were fed. They were cold, but they were warm in spirit. They had the seal of God on their foreheads, a mark no scanner could read, but which shone like a beacon to the angels. Mateo stood on a ridge, looking down at the glowing cities of the plain. He saw the smoke of the torment rising. He adjusted his grip on his staff. "They have their time," Mateo whispered to the wind, "but it is short." The believers waited. They watched. They knew the wrath of the Lamb was coming to shatter the glass cities and break the Iron Kingdom. They waited for the sky to crack open, not with bombs, but with glory. But first, before they would see the return of the King of Kings and live forever with him in glory, The 7 plagues of God's wrath must fall on those who have the mark of the beast, the mark of Satan's rebellion.
For more Bible-based end-time prophecy dramas to strengthen your faith and the faith of others, help spread the word by supporting the channel. Please like, subscribe, and share.